Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts. As you can tell from the chat, we have people coming here from all over the world because, of course, everybody in the world loves cowboys and loves rom-com. So we're going to have a really fun conversation with Lyla Sage and Tarah DeWitt. Tarah DeWitt, who are good friends, as you could tell if you came in very early, and also have a lot to talk about. So before we get to them, I just want to say a really quick thank you to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of our programs. We couldn't do this without them. And I'd also like to thank Lyla and Tara for letting us share this program with other libraries. And when libraries work together, we just make magic. So here we are doing some cowboy magic. I think that'll be really funny.
We love libraries.
Yes, we do. What's not to love? Free stuff and getting to hang out with your favorite authors. I mean, it's all good. You can buy signed books from Lyla from Aesop's Fable, which is our local indie bookstore, but you can also buy them anywhere. And you can buy books from Tara. I'm going to send a link to your website, to her website, so you can find her books as well. Super fun. I just found out that she also wrote a cowboy book, and so we're going to have to talk about that a little bit. So the thing is that Tara and Lyla are going to talk to each other for about 45 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll do a Q&A. If you have questions, put your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and I will moderate those at the end of the thing. But you are more than welcome to chat with each other in the chat all throughout because, I know you guys are super fun. So Tarah DeWitt, as I said, writing rom-coms, and Lyla Sage writing cowboy romances, which are just, you have to see them to believe them. The covers are so fun and so that was the thing that caught my eye first. Lyla was like the covers, and then the stories are just beautiful. And then on top of that, they're just, you have two of them. So we're celebrating a book birthday, and apparently you also are a big TikTok
Am I?
Yes, you are. No, BookTok. You are, yes. And I love that. I love that readers are able to put a spotlight on favorite books. So we are celebrating the book Swift and Saddled, which came after Done and Dusted. So you can tell just from the titles that this is going to be a blast. So I'm going to go off screen and I'm going to let you guys have at it for the next 40 minutes, and then I'll be back.
Thank you so much, Mina.
Thank you. Hi, friend.
Hello, Tara. How are you?
How you doing? I'm gonna go watch all your dances on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm super TikTok famous. I'm like really good at it.
I love that. How you feeling? How's the week been? How's this whole release been?
So much going on, so much love. I've literally never felt more loved in my life. And I said that to my mom, and she was so upset. And she was like, "Excuse me, I've loved you your whole life." And I was like, "Different kind of love, mother." But it's been beautiful. Release day was amazing. That was my first time I had ever signed in person, on my own, which was really beautiful. And my dad was there, and he's never looked more proud.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And my brother was there too, and my cousin was playing Mean Girls mom, filming every second of it.
You're doing great, sweetie.
She was just really into her job that I gave her because my mom's out of town to capture the moment. And I went to Chicago, which is one of my favorite places on the planet, and got to hang out with friends there. What?
I've never been.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about that.
I'm gonna fix it at some point.
If you ever need a conversation partner in Chicago, let me come. Because I'll be really good at it.
We'll just go together everywhere.
Yes, we'll just be a packaged Tara and Lyla deal. Tara and Lyla take the country.
Oh my God.
But I just got home.
Thelma and Louise have the same initials. Sorry.
This is gonna go somewhere.
This is gonna go so well.
I'm gonna text my publicist immediately after this and let her know that that's what we're doing.
Just watch that. It's gold. It's put it everywhere.
Let's get a reality show. Something to consider.
Yeah. I was gonna start off and be annoying and tell you to start with your elevator pitch for Swift and Saddled.
Okay, for sure.
Do you have that nailed down now?
I don't know if I have it nailed down.
I don't know.
It changes a little bit every single time. But Swift and Saddled is the second installment in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. It follows Ada Hart, who's an interior designer, and Weston Ryder, who is our cowboy, and of course, our cowboy romance. Both of these two find themselves kind of with something to prove and end up on the same project of creating a guest ranch at Rebel Blue Ranch, which is where Wes lives. But they meet before that. They meet at the bar. They don't know who each other are. Some steaminess ensues, and everybody's like pretty shocked when Ada shows up to work the next morning. Which is my favorite thing of her just like rolling down her window in her car, seeing this cowboy that she made out with, and she's just like,
Well,
oh no.
nope.
Like I think Ada is one of those people who definitely thinks her life is just kind of one big cosmic joke. And I would say the first like 30% of this novel really proves that for her. And it's real. I loved writing this book. They go on kind of this journey themselves, right? Because they have something to prove. So they're taking like this parallel journey to a goal that each of them have while also kind of like moving their lines closer together while trying to fight it. And they just become like this beautiful sun and moon love story. They are exactly what each other needs. And I just had a blast writing it.
I feel like I could tell that you did when I was reading it. And it was just, they were so warm and layered and not, the whole time I was reading, I was like comfy, comfortable, having fun. And then like somebody's internal monologue would be like, and then we'd be moving on again. And I would be like, what did she just do to me? But I also have to say that I think that your titles, I don't know how your titles work out. If you've always had it planned like that and done this way, obviously they couldn't be more perfect for the cowboy genre in general, but they also just really fit. Like the Swift and Saddled as a whole, like they make out pretty swiftly.
Correct.
Then yeah, and all of them seem to fit. And I was wondering how you kind of came up with them, if that was totally on purpose or if you were just playing with like terminology at first that would go, because I've had that happen before where I'm like,
Yeah.
it would be so cute to call a book this, and then
Right.
that's kind of how Funny Feelings started in my head. I
And
was
Funny
thinking that would
Feelings
be a
is,
cute title, and
and it's
then
the perfect title for that book.
Mhm.
I mean, mine, so originally Done and Dusted had a different title and I knew it was bad. I was like, I hate this, but this is all I've got right now. And so I was like, I'm gonna reveal this on like my author Instagram that had maybe like 42 followers at the time. I was like, I'm gonna reveal this day. And if I don't come up with a title that I like by this point in time, like that's what it's gonna be. Because I love like a little pressure, you know?
Yeah,
I do my best work
work
under a
well
little
under
bit of
that.
pressure. And so then I was like checking things off of my to-do list at work and I had said it on a meeting earlier that day that I was like, oh, that's done and dusted. We're good to go. And then I was like, oh my
Perfect.
God. And so I thought about it more and right as a certified horse girly and a Western girly, the word dusted has its own meaning there. And so I was
Mhm.
like, I think this will fit. I think this will work. And done and dusted was so perfect, especially for the first book, because it's a saying that people say and people
Yep.
know and it's familiar, but it also has maybe a meaning that they didn't know about. And so
Yep.
it was so perfect. And then once I decided on that and I was like, yes, this is the world stopped turning when I came up with Done
Yes.
and Dusted. I was like, this is incredibly, incredibly perfect. Then I started playing around with other kind of like past tense Western verbs. So that's where you get like
Mhm.
saddled and lassoed and another one. And thinking about like that first word generally, how it can relate to the characters.
Mhm.
So just like sort of playing around with like this alliteration of like S and S, L and L, D and D, right?
Mhm.
And it just became so fun to do and it stuck. Like I knew it was kind of hard for me when I thought of Switch and Saddled. I was like, okay, if I commit to this, right, I'm committing to the bit and I'm
Yeah.
seeing this through all four
Yeah.
books. So I have to make sure that I have something for all four. And I did, and it's wonderful. And I love my titles. Sometimes they can be a bit
Love
of a
your
tongue
titles.
twister, but I think they're fun.
I think they're so fun. I love them. And it feels like they really just come full circle into the book every single time. And I love it. And also I was gonna ask, I had a cute icebreaker and now I forgot it. Oh, that's what it was. I want to know what if your characters, what they would be if they were desserts.
That's a fun question,
I
Tarah
know.
DeWitt.
I'm thinking of what they would be.
I know. I think Wes, he's just like so incredibly sweet and wonderful. I think he would be like a strawberry shortcake.
Yep.
Just like summery, fun.
Perfect little cake.
Yes.
I knew you were gonna go with that or something warm and gooey.
Yes. I think for like warm
Like a
and gooey
hand
though,
pie.
I would like I love a hand pie. Oh, sorry everyone. But like a strawberry shortcake that's just like sweet,
Yes.
tart, just like, the perfect combination of all of the things that we love. And an
Maybe I
angel
have
food
it.
cake, he's an angel.
Yes, he
He's
is.
an absolute angel. And for Ada, I would say like, I don't know, maybe like coffee ice cream.
Yeah, that's my girl. That's
Like
my and coffee ice cream is my shit.
same.
Yeah.
I love that. She's like dark, rich,
Yes.
like just like
For
like no
people that have
nonsense.
great taste,
Correct.
people that have superior taste.
Correct. And I like that is what Ada is.
Yes.
So
100%.
not everybody likes her, but the ones that get it.
Yep.
That's how I
100%.
feel about coffee ice cream.
How do you when you're starting them and like designing your characters, do you start a certain way? I feel like as you go, and at least for me with writing, like when I realized over time, like, oh, I guess I do kind of have a process. I didn't even realize that I start a certain way and have a pattern of things. And that's sort of what helps me stay true to what they would be like
Right.
throughout it. Is there something you do to kind of design, because every single one of them in your books has their own unique voice, and you can hear it even when they pop up in the other books, that they all just have, I don't know, they're very individual.
That's really nice, Tara. That's really nice of you to say. But I think, one thing we have in common is that we both write like character-driven novels. So, right, everything the character does, it's what the character does that advances the plot, not necessarily what the plot does that
Yes.
advances the plot. And so usually, the way that I kind of like start them is I come up with everybody's zodiac signs.
There you go.
So, because I'm an astrology girly,
Yep.
and so I kind of start there, but with the writer siblings and Cam in particular, all four of them just kind of like came to me in like a chunk. Like they just kind of all just like came to me fully formed and they
Yes.
existed that way. And so then it was more about finding the right like the person to pair with them. For Emmy and Luke, it's very easy because Luke was like the very first character that I ever conceptualized. I just played like build a boyfriend,
Yep.
and made him exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Forever my man, Luke Brooks.
He's perfect.
I think about him all the time. I
You
think about
realize
him
that
all the
when we
time.
say this kind of stuff, though, we're saying, I think about me all the time.
Correct. I
I
think about this man that I created in my head
created.
constantly. He's not real, but he
It's not
is.
real, but because you are so in it when you're doing it, and they do take their own direction. Like that sounds like horseshit because I'm the one, hitting the keys, but they sort of take on a life of their own. And sometimes something is just not working. You think you have this wonderful idea for a scene, and there's too much other stuff happening and the dialogue isn't there or whatever, but then they really do just kind of take on a life of their own and
They like
pop
guide,
off.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
They become kind of their own
So they do
guideposts
feel like their own thing because they do stuff without our permission. So
all the
they
time.
make our lives harder too.
You know who really did that? Ada Hart. So, because right, like I think when I was writing Switch and Saddled, you and I are having this conversation that I went back and I rewrote like from the first 20 to 40%. Like that, the original stuff that was there, gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. And that was all because of like Ada, who had like I knew her so well that when I got later in the book, I was like, this like I'm pushing Ada into a box that she doesn't quite belong in, and it requires me to go change something back here. And even though that like sucks to do,
It does suck, but it's worth it and it makes sense in the end. And I feel like that shows in your books. I really like how th- these people learn that they don't need to change to be loved. Like, but they also don't, so they stop like subscribing to maybe what other people's perceptions of them are, like especially with Ada,
yes.
she's self-aware but also realizes these thoughts are coming up because of other people's perceptions of me. Like my favorite, well, my second or third favorite, or maybe it's tied for first, I don't know. The one quote was about how when she realizes that softness is a strength, it was like, see, she's she is soft. She realizes it, she sees it, she knows what she is. It doesn't come easily to her, but yeah, I really like how I think that you do a very good job at that, at not making them like change for each other, but they have like a very self-actualizing journey every time.
Thank you. And I think it's a beautiful thing to realize that you should be loved just the way that you are,
Yeah.
right? And
Broken bits and all. You
it
don't have to
just,
be perfect or healed to
no.
love people or to be
And
loved.
I think, right, like Ada has kind of like a tumultuous past that she's coming from. And I think the thing that makes her story really beautiful, that might also be the thing that annoys people, is that we don't get a lot of it, right? Like she doesn't have to be bound to that past to be proud of who she is or to
Mhm.
move forward from it. Like she can just put that to bed and move on. Like she doesn't need closure from her past. She just needs closure from herself. And she gets that. And that's more
She needs
valuable.
that permission. She gives herself permission to move on and to be happy. And she's gone through her journey and
Yeah.
her process for it. So yeah, I think that sort of argument, like, oh, we don't see enough of it, I you have to also consider what it is to read an entertaining book and what's going to keep you going through it and what things are like. If you spend too much time on that, it takes away from your reading experience, I think. So
Yes, it does. Also, hi, puppy.
oh yeah, they're gonna be there. They don't do this all day long, and every time I'm on a Zoom,
My
they want you to let them out. All right, sorry.
let them out. My dogs are currently entertained with like a Kong with peanut butter in them. Oh my God, Tara's got a full outfit on. Look at you.
Put on boots.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes, I just have my Devil's Boot sweatshirt on.
There you go.
But
I put on
it's
the
everything
boots
to
and I
me.
was like, this is so stupid. Then nobody's gonna see my boots. But now you did.
Now
So
they did. So
I could
I
have been in
love a
my
woman that thinks ahead.
could have been in my fuzzy slippers still.
Excellent outfit choice. Excellent, excellent outfit
Thank
choice.
you. Thank you very much.
Um, but yeah, it's just a beautiful thing to like see like I think as an author to meet characters where they're at and not where they've been, right? Because I think that that is um a beautiful way to write them too, because we're not really bound by what happened to us, right? We're not like those things inform who we are and how we react to the situations around us, but we don't have to give them more weight than they deserve if we don't want to.
Exactly. And there's just a very hopeful vein and throughout all of your stories. What would you say if you wanted people to walk away from Swift and Saddle? What are the themes that like you found were the most prominent that you really wanted people to take away from that?
I mean, I think kind of throughout the entire kind of Rebel Blue Ranch series as a whole, I think we have this like beautiful arc of family. And that's not just the family that you are born with, but the family that you find and the home that you find. And I think, I think closure is also a big theme, especially for Ada, closure that she creates for herself instead of depending on other people to do it for her. Because if you do that, you might be waiting
Yeah,
forever.
it'll
Um,
probably never happen.
and then also just kind of like this is so cheesy, like this is a cheeseball answer, but like journey greater than destination, you know?
No, it's
Like
not. I feel like that was part of the whole the whole thing in the one I wrote too, that's coming out in May, because it's like,
It's called Savor It
it's
by
called
Tarah
being
DeWitt.
present and being and finding joy in wherever you're at, because
Right.
there isn't any guarantee that you're going to get to where you think you're where you think you're going. You're supposed to.
Or where you think you should be, right? Like
Exactly.
Ada has a very specific kind of thing that she can't be at Rebel Blue, that she can't stay there,
Yeah.
that she can't stick there. But it's the place for her. And so kind of releasing that expectation of what you think your life should be like is a beautiful thing.
And that's so real, because we do sort of get into these, like, not habits is the wrong word, but we get into these like expectations that have been set for us. And, oh, well, you're this, so you're fun and outgoing and artsy, so you're going to be this when you grow up, and blah blah blah. And that you hear that enough, and people expect that enough, and that's kind of what feels easiest to go with. And so it is real to have some trepidation and to be like, I can't end up here. That's not what I'm supposed to end up doing. And especially after you come out of a relationship that's abusive, moving for a man probably seems
Like,
like,
oh,
maybe I
that's
shouldn't
definitely
do
something
that,
I don't want to do, right? So yeah, and I think Ada's journey is super real. I definitely wrote her
Yes.
for the woman I was probably like 5 years ago, and that was so healing and comforting to come to like this conclusion that where I'm at is perfect and wonderful, and it's exactly like where you're at is where you should be. And that's all you should have to worry about, right?
Yes, that's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. So
I love
beautiful.
I love Ada so much. I love girl.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I wanted to ask you what your favorite scene to write was.
My
Even if
favorite
it's not your favorite scene to write, or you could say to write or just to read, whatever your favorite scene is you're most proud of.
those are all three different answers.
Okay, then give us all three. We've got time.
My favorite scene to write was there's a scene of all three writer siblings like cooking in the kitchen,
Mhm.
and really like supporting Wes and helping him out. And I think their personalities are so clear in that scene, but also it's the first time we really see their sibling dynamic after they've had a chance to reacclimate to being together as like a unit
As
again,
adults, too, adult
right?
siblings are always a fun,
It's
interesting
always a fun
dynamic.
thing. And right, Emmy comes home, she's been gone forever. They haven't been together like that in, 8 or 9 years.
Mhm.
Um, in a moment where there's not an end date on it. Because previously when they've spent time together, right, Emmy's gonna leave, Emmy's gonna
Mhm.
go back to wherever she is. And so that was a beautiful scene to explore and to have not only their individual personalities in there, but to see how they interact as like a threesome and as a unit. Um, was so fun. I loved writing that, and I still love reading it.
One second.
My
My dog is killing our vibe again.
Not the killing of the vibe, and I think my dog just heard your dog bark, so it is what it is. Um,
The other one will be
but
back too.
I love the big one. Uh, but I think also the scene that I love to read the most is the stick shift lessons.
I love that.
I love to
I
read
love
that
how
scene.
it comes into play again later.
I know, like I think like it was, and I love it because it's fun and it's romantic and it's
Mhm.
flirty and wonderful, but also like how scary is it to try something new and how incredible is it to feel comfortable to do it with somebody,
It's
right? Like it's so, I think it's just like it's fun and it's flirty, but it's also, I think, deeply meaningful that Ada like trusts this man to
oh
be in
yeah,
this situation and that
especially just
everything's
because
gonna be
it's
okay.
when my husband tries to tell me how to do something, I'm like, no, I'm gonna find a different way just because you told me to do it that way. And so it's hard to yeah, just enjoy somebody and their opinions so much that you want to
Correct.
automatically. I do listen to him sometimes. I do. I'm not saying, whatever. But
Sure.
yeah, I loved that. I love that, especially like I said, because it comes into play later, and that's like my favorite scene, but I don't know if I should give too many details because it's only been out a few days.
It's
I don't want to
true.
spoil too many things, but I really did love the
Yeah,
reconciliation scene at the end there. I just
me too.
felt like them, was very perfectly them. And I loved that it wasn't some hugely dramatic thing, but it felt like this. I had all the same butterflies and the same reactions and everything when I was reading it. It was just perfect.
Thank you. And I think it also makes, like, I think the stick shift scene as it stands, like if the reconciliation was different, I think it would still be kind of like deceivingly vulnerable. Like it just
Yeah.
seems fun, but it's actually a huge moment of character development for Ada. But I think the way the reconciliation happens makes it just even more beautiful because it's these two people that have just become so comfortable with one another and so vulnerable with one another that they've felt comfortable starting to build a foundation of life using each other, right? Like,
Yes, exactly. And he literally made it so that she had full freedom whenever she needed or ever wanted to get away. She
yes,
now never doesn't have anything that like prohibits her from doing that. And just her internal monologue during that when she's like, it'd be really nice if I didn't hear shift, sweetheart, or
right.
whatever that was every time I went to shift. And I was like, that's real.
It's so real.
How those things like embed themselves in your head.
Same. Because they embed and they don't let go. And, some things aren't meant to be let go. And what like Ada was definitely not supposed to let go of Wes. And so I love that scene. But I think the scene that I'm the most proud of is like their first intimate scene.
Yes.
I love that scene. I think it's like deeply vulnerable and
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, and I like can't think about it too deeply. I did this in Chicago. Somebody asked about it, about their like first intimate scene, and I like teared up, and I was like, "This is not supposed to be what it's supposed to be." But I love that scene too. So, long story short, I love this book a lot.
Yeah. And conclude. No.
And to conclude, this book is actually really good.
It's really good. You guys should go get it and
If you
read
haven't
it
yet,
and love it and tell your friends. I
please tell
can't
all your friends.
tell all your friends.
And then you can swoon over hot, soft cowboys together.
Ugh, he is so perfectly soft though, but in a way that feels like realistic. He's sunshine. He's a delight. He is a delight.
He's a true delight. And I think, like, again, I think I've said this before, but Wes ultimately, like, his personality has always been this way. But he definitely, writing him became like somebody that I needed and somebody that I like clung to because it was so scary to follow
Yeah.
up done and dusted. It's just like, it's the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my entire life is following up a novel that just kind of
Yeah.
like, it
Well,
was so scary.
especially because everybody was so excited and so invested. And
Yeah.
it is a little, there's something that happens when you get all the support and love from other people and you're so excited to have people excited with you, but then you also feel there's just this inevitable thing that happens where you also feel like you have to give them what they want in a way.
Right.
And when in reality, if you're writing the characters that you want to write and how you want to write them, it's you can trust people to love them and to see that all over again. But the pressure, and I think I've heard you talk about it before, where you said it kind of turned into like a little bit of an echo chamber for you for a bit,
Yeah.
but you came through it beautifully.
We came through, and that's literally because I was like clinging to Wes and Ada, like
Yes.
my like lifeboat. And
They're really that whole reading that whole book, that's how that felt too, was like even when I was just really comfortable and happy and like excited to see where it was going, even though every once in a while something would happen where I'd be like like that, where I'd be like, oh, this girl's me, that's great.
yes,
um
that like writing like rhythm. We talk about rhythm kind of all the time in our conversations about how it kind of functions like life does or like how a normal day does. Like it's very normal for you to be having a great day and your internal monologue to just be sucking.
yes.
Or right, like it's just like taking Ada through kind of this journey includes the good parts and the parts where she like has to hurt herself in order to grow a little bit more, right? Like this
100%.
realization, right? Like this realization of, I want to be exactly like other girls.
Yeah.
And, you know, also having to reconcile the fact that she maybe created a defense mechanism that was destructive to those female friendships and now is trying to figure out how to navigate those as an adult, right? I think like the self-awareness that Ada has is really special because it's
Yes.
something that she like started learning before she got to Rebel Blue, but then Rebel Blue becomes this safe space for her to explore it.
Well, and if she wasn't self-aware, she would have no idea that she wasn't necessarily like other girls. And I think that that's a saying that maybe it's applied too loosely sometimes, I think, because a lot of these people they have an innate desire to figure out how they can connect too. I've heard that about, you know, Farley from Funny Feelings too, and that's why she used comedy. Like, how do I get people to like me, and how do I whatever? Why is this so important? It's a channel through which you can communicate and connect to people through. And Ada wanted that, just like everybody else wants that, even though it didn't necessarily come quite as easy to her.
Right.
I loved
And
the female friendships. I always loved the female friendships in your books.
I mean, they just hit, right? Like
They do.
they're
They're so
great.
well done.
And I
I
think
want to
that
pull up my one of my other favorite quotes really quick.
I
Uh,
think that Farley would fit in. Like I think if her and Meyer like came to a like vacation at Baby Blue, like
I
they
think
would
so
love
too.
it.
I think she would, yeah, I think she would make a lot of really inappropriate jokes, but it would be great
But it would be great
in
and
this book.
Teddy would love her.
Teddy would love her, and Teddy would be
They would hit it
a
off.
wreck. Two redheads would just absolutely
Be
wreck.
menaces to society.
Oh my God. Okay, so the one of the ones I loved was like when he says, "Why now?" he asked, and in her head she's like, "Because you're standing in front of me like some Wild West god and nothing but a towel." I loved that part so much. I laughed out loud. That's great. Like
I
that's
think
why.
correct. Like
Sometimes you don't see something until it's actually in front of your face
in front of your face in the most
and
kind of
half
like
naked.
obvious way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I also love that scene that Wes, right, because the I'm only capable of writing simps established. That's the only type of man that I'm able to write.
Don't
But
limit yourself. No, they're all that's what yeah.
I love a simp.
Keep giving us simps.
But like I love how he like turns her down, right? Like I think
Mhm.
that's just such a beautiful thing for him as well to realize that he's also worth more than this
Yes.
what is
Sweet,
happening in this
sweet
moment.
boy.
My
Yes.
sweet boy, I love him.
Little angel. I
My little
loved it.
softy.
I loved everything about it.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Where what can you talk about as far as future plans? I don't know that I want to make you have
Mm,
you talk about like too deep into the next
mhm.
one and spoil and all that, but
I can give you
yeah, a little something.
a little sprinkle. So the next one, I don't know if all of you saw the cover reveal that happened earlier this week for Lost and Lassoed, which is Gus and Teddy. Um, which me and Gus and Teddy are kind of all in a toxic
A
relationship.
toxic relationship. I
Um,
know. I felt bad telling you that I think it's absolutely
it's
perfect and
it's so
amazing.
good.
And yeah, it's so good.
But let me like maybe explain that a little bit more. And the reason Gus and Teddy and me are in a toxic relationship, not anymore because their book is mostly done. But we were while I was writing it is because they're Gus and Teddy come with the most expectation. They come with the most weight of other people. And so, and both Gus and Teddy are dynamic and wonderful individuals. And so, but because they have been such a heavy presence in each of the books so far, I think everybody has their own idea of these characters and who they are. And so
Yeah.
sometimes that can make it hard to kind of stay true. There it is.
There it is.
Of stay true to who I know that they are
Yes.
and the people that I've been creating this entire time. Um, So that like comes with its own sort of expectation and weight,
Mhm.
but um
I know.
it's hard to free yourself from that. But
You
I
handled
did
it
it.
perfectly. You did it.
And
You did an excellent job.
that's right, you've read it.
Hmm. Most of
Thank-
it. It's so
Thanks,
good.
Mom.
And then until I had to go back to my
Right. And do you until you had to do your job. Don't worry, I forgive you. Um, but it's just like they come with a lot of expectations, and that
Mhm.
weight is really, really, really heavy. And it took me a long time to like push it off.
Yeah.
So it just, but I love them. I love their story. And the thing is, at the end of the day, the couples, like I think Gus and Teddy do have like these explosive and,
Mhm.
like quippy moments. But the thing about all of my characters is that the person that they fall for, the person that this romantic story is about, is the person who frees them from the
Yeah,
expectations that other people have of
exactly
them.
that.
Right.
Exactly that.
So,
That's what you've absolutely nailed. And that's what I meant earlier when I was saying that. I like how they've they fall for the right person, and they learn to that to be loved the way they are, but they also ditch other people's
right.
perceptions.
Right,
And
like Emmy gets to be more than the
yeah.
champion barrel racer, kind of like golden girl. Luke Brooks gets to be more than kind of like the screw up and the bad boy. Wes gets to be
Mhm.
more than the middle child. Ada gets to be more than this girl that she thinks that people don't like. Gus gets to be more than like the grumpy single dad. And
Yes.
Teddy gets to be more than the flirty best friend. And so even though they're quippy and explosive, they're also deeply soft and
They
wonderful
are.
and perfect for one
And
another.
it's just a perfect escapist. Like I always think that escapism is best when they feel like they could be real. And I think you do that so well.
Somebody said the other day, and it did make me cry because if I'm not between a 4 and a 7 on the happy sad scale, sobbing, I'm doing pretty even all the time. But they said like that I write realistic soulmates and that they could see my couples at the grocery store and just like know that they're in love. And I was like,
Oh my God. That makes me want to cry too.
isn't that like,
Oh.
oh, because I think that's true for your
Yep.
characters too, right? Like we create this,
So
what
I try. But
you do. And everybody pre-order Savor It. It comes out in May. Small Town Chef Earring.
yeah.
You're not gonna want to miss it. But like creating what we want in a romance novel, which is like this lightning in a bottle type of
Mhm.
love, while also making it feel extremely real. Like
Yes.
again, that you could see Wes and Ada, you could see Fisher and Sage, like you could see them at the grocery store and be like, oh my God, they're
If you
so
saw
cute.
Deacon and Lauren at the grocery store, though, they probably I'm just kidding. And
They'd
then we
be
don't need to
like,
get into that. I just, but that's so at the concept of that is so real. That
yeah,
is, and that's the best. That's the best because I like imagining what your characters are doing during a regular day. Like, I wonder what they're up to,
right.
and what would they think if they came shopping to this funny little store? What would they be? I love that kind of stuff.
I
I
love
love
thinking
when
about
they
that
go
too.
on to exist off the page.
Me too. And like thinking about like Wes and Ada's like life now, right? Like they are, Ada has like this moment of clarity that she's thinking about it. And she's like, I could see our life together. Like I could see the way, we listen to like vinyl records on Sunday mornings and hang out outside and right, just like do these simple, beautiful things that become deeply meaningful because of the person you're doing it with, because
Yeah,
of the person you're doing like your life with. And I just love that.
I love that so much. That's
Love that.
amazing.
They're so
Is
cute.
I saw that Mina hit the screen record. Did you want to ask, did we have some questions?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. We do. I just wanted to show the cover because it is so beautiful of Lassoed. It's gorgeous.
It's
Yes, it's
very beautiful.
stunning. The
I have a
best.
couple of questions of my own, but I'm going to wait because Alejandra's first question really does have to do with your covers. Do you design your book art or is it given to you by your publisher? What input do you have on it in your in the design of your book?
Probably more than usual. So because the Done and Dusted cover, I originally indie published Done and Dusted, right? So I have complete creative control there. I found Austin, my cover designer, after getting 2 covers that I didn't love because my problem was I knew exactly what I wanted, which does make things a little bit more difficult. But I found Austin, who's my cover designer, and she created she was like, well, I've never done a book cover before. And I was like, well, I've never published a book before, sister. So let's roll.
Yeah.
Which was lovely. And she created a beautiful cover for Done and Dusted, a beautiful cover for Swift and Saddled, which both were done before I got picked up by the Dial Press. And then when I got picked up by the Dial Press, they were so lovely and bringing Austin with me, and she will finish out the series. And we work together the same way we've always worked. And that is like we create the cover together. Like we go through the process that we normally go through, which is a Google Doc that I create of like poses that I want, time of day, which is very important for all 4 covers. What they look like, what they're wearing. Teddy's fringe jacket is extremely important, and Ada's tattoos are super important. Emmy's red shirt is super important. And so I kind of create this vision of what I want, decide on a pose, and then Austin takes it and runs with it and creates something beautiful. And so that's what we did for Lost and Lassoed. We went back and forth, and when I felt good about it, that's when we sent it over to the publisher.
Tarah, I want to ask you, your book is coming out in May. Do you have any say in your book covers?
Yeah, I basically say like, here's my generalized idea, and then they send me a few different things to approve or tweak, and then we kind of go over colors. It's a little bit of a process, but yeah, my input is definitely a big consideration, and I try really hard to like be annoyingly detailed and obnoxious up front. So
And one thing I love about Tara's covers is that they always end up looking so rich after she gives like her feedback. Like I've seen a couple of like first or second or third drafts, and then Tara has something to say, and they just become like the colors become richer. The characters like kind of like pop off the page with these changes that she makes, and they become really
I
beautiful.
do love my covers.
If
Me
you don't
too.
mind, I'm just going to share them really quick because I want to make sure that people see them.
Look at them.
There they are. Oh,
God,
my
look
children.
with Loren and Deacon. I feel like I'm intruding. Like
I
whenever I look
know.
at that
It's
cover,
so
I feel
like
like I'm intruding on them.
I love
So
that.
funny. I do love the screen share thing. We do have a bunch of questions, but I want to go back a little bit and ask you both about how you decided to publish. Because I tend to like really talk with authors who've been doing, writing for 30, 40 years. And it sounds
Mhm.
like you kind of came out of the gate. What was your origin story, I guess, in terms of getting published? I know you started out being indie and then moving to trad, but like, were you always a writer? Like, did you know you were going to be writers when you were children?
I always wanted to be a writer. I wrote like my first like book that had a beginning, middle, and an end very early, and it's terrible. And my parents love to bring it up all the time because they still have the composition notebook that I wrote it in, and they think it's the cutest thing ever. But I love to write, and had I wrote forever, wrote in college. When I was in grad school, I wrote a lot of like short horror stories because that's how I was feeling at that moment in time. Um, and I had originally tried to query with another book, like another romance novel before I wrote Done and Dusted, and just wasn't successful. That's a very, strenuous and tough process. And, a lot of books like lurk on the depths of my Google Drive that will never see the time of day, including a very terrible YA dystopian situation that takes place in the Wild West at a ranch called Rebel Blue. So Rebel Blue also exists like in the future as like the base camp for this like YA warrior situation. Anyway, so with Done and Dusted, I was like, I got another rejection, and I was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And that's when I started writing Done and Dusted. And when I wrote, I had to hit kind of like the 50% mark of word count because I don't write chronologically. And I was like, I think I have something here, and I think I'm gonna go for it. And I just did, and I indie pubbed it. And indie pubbing was I think the best decision I've ever made, and I loved being an indie, and I know Tara definitely feels the same way.
Yeah.
Do you,
For
Tara?
sure. As far as I go, I can't even explain why I never considered being a writer when I was younger. I loved writing, but I just didn't think, because I almost thought because I loved it so much, I couldn't make a career out of it. But I like looking back, I realize how silly that is. I won like I think it was in first or second grade, I won like a local county contest writing a little mystery, and I got to go collect an award at the Doubletree Hotel from like the Rotary Club or something. And it was just, I remember treating it like it was like the Academy Awards. Like I wrote a speech. Anyway, I loved it, and and it was definitely the thing I was best at in school, but never considered it. Huge reader though, forever. And then 2020 happened, and I changed genres that I was devouring and got really, really into contemporary rom-coms. And I like could not go through them fast enough because I wasn't sleeping. I was sick of everybody in my house. So it was just, and eventually I felt like, oh, I've read everything. And so I started writing. I also at the time did binge watch Yellowstone. And so like everybody did that year, everybody did. But and I just had this random idea that pieced together in a few different ways. I never planned on showing anybody it ever. It was literally just because I like didn't know what to read anymore. And so I was just, clicking and clacking away. And then I was at a Friendsgiving one year and later that year. And they were like, you have to, one of my friends that was at Friendsgiving is a part of like Bookstagram and stuff. And she had been telling me for years, you should start a Bookstagram. You bug me more than anybody else for book recommendations. And I was like, nah, I don't have time for that. And she was like, you absolutely should put this out. And I see people that are self-publishing things all the time, and they're doing well. Because I knew if I was not nearly as tough as Lyla. I knew that if I faced one rejection, I'd be like, never mind, didn't want to do it anyways. I'm out. And so I didn't try to query it. I just put it out. And then I wrote Funny Feelings really, really quickly after that. I don't recommend writing that many books in a year. Kids,
Me neither.
Try your brain cells. And I put that one out, and that one, for whatever reason, it started to take off and do well. And eventually my third book, the co-op is what my agent read on Kindle Unlimited, and she reached out to me, and it all went from there.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And before Tarah was my friend, she was one of my favorite authors. So let me just say how incredible it is to be able to do these things with her.
Oh, I love I've always thought that about romance, that the romance community is so supportive of each other, but I love that you guys found each other through reading, really.
Yeah.
Yes. And Tarah and I are each other's safe space.
We are.
We really are.
Indeed.
So it's great.
Okay, well then let me ask you why you decided to write romance. Like why specifically? Because Lyla, you just said that you were writing horror. What made you gravitate towards romance?
I love romance. I started reading my first romances probably a little bit too young. Like sneaking them from like my grandmother's library, especially Never Marry a Cowboy, which is a really excellent Harlequin romance novel. Love that one. And I love romance because like romance is to me is the genre that when I read sparks the most joy. And I love that things can exist specifically for joy, right? Like, and that's what I think my books are, but it also provides, I think, the most beautiful and relatable kind of canvas to explore what's going on in like life that might be hard. It's a great place to have tough conversations, and it's a great place to provide a safe way to explore what life can look like. And so I just like love romance. I love love stories. I'm lucky I have like my parents are the most in love people I've ever met. And so I have this very real representation of a romance novel in my life. And they're the thing that makes me believe in happily ever afters and in love stories. And so it's a joy to be able to write those as well. I just love it. Like there is something about romance that feels real and authentic while also feeling just kind of like out of this world and lovely. Like you can take it in so many directions. And every genre can be romance, right? Like it could, like you can have a fantasy romance, you can have a horror romance, you can have a thriller romance, like you can have every type of romance under the sun, and it's just beautiful.
I love
Tara,
that.
do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think that especially like what she said about how romance novels can exist to bring joy. And, you know, my journey started specifically in 2020 where it was like I needed to find some joy anywhere. I didn't need to have any more existential dread put on me. But then I also find it really important and beautiful that you can write stories about people who are imperfect and they still get to be loved, because that's, you know, that's so many of us have that same wound, like I have to be perfect to be loved. No, you don't. This is look at this person. I mean, they're fake, but it's something that you can take from that. And romance, knowing that there's a happily ever after at the end, it's a really safe space to explore deeper themes, if you can do it in a really respectful and sensitive way. It's a beautiful place to like learn more about yourself, learn more about how to relate to other people, learn about a journey that you might not go on ever, and but you get to understand somebody a little bit more, because no matter what, it's easier to step into those things knowing I'm going to be safe at the end. I'm going to be taken care of at the end. My heart, my investment, it's all going to be taken care of
It's
at
all
the
going
end.
to pay off.
Yeah.
Oh, Tara, that was a really good answer.
Oh gosh.
Both of your answers were wonderful. I don't think we'll have time for this, but my other question was about why you would want to write romance, because historically romance readers have been poo-pooed as, you know, mommy porn or whatever it is. And yet you're coming into this field with love and enthusiasm and, you know, and wonderful, wonderful stories. So maybe I'll have to have you back and we can really dig into like what's going on there. But
We
I
would
do want
love to dig into that sometime. We talk about
Yeah.
that all the time.
We talk about it all the time, so we'll be ready with
Okay.
answers.
All right. Well, I'll be talking to you guys again because I do want to get back to some of our audience questions. Aaliyah says to Lyla, what was your favorite memory from when you were writing Swift and Saddled?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think my uncle owns a dude ranch in Wyoming, and I finished Swift and Saddled there, which was so magnificent. And the Wi-Fi was out at the ranch when I had to submit it. And so I rode a horse to the internet cafe on Main Street and
I didn't know
submitted
this story. That's
Swift.
amazing.
I swear I told you this, but I submitted Swift and Saddled that way. And one my best friend was with me. The Emmy to my Teddy was with me, and we, you know, sat in that little internet cafe and submitted Swift
so
and
great.
Saddled together. And it was really beautiful.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
I just before I go into another question, Tara, I'm so glad you're wearing pants today, by the way, or not pants.
Oh, yep.
You're
I
fully
am.
covered.
I am fully covered. Sorry.
I'm always
I have
afraid of that, like when I'm doing programs at home that I'm gonna have to get up.
No, I've learned my lesson too many times. My dogs have no respect. So very good.
Okay, Charissa asks, what would a double date between Tate and Henry and Wes and Ada look like?
That is such a fantastic question.
Ooh, make them play a game.
I know.
Games
I'm
or
like,
something
let's
like,
go to like skee ball.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
dusty bar with skee ball, and
Air
they'll
hockey.
be embarrassing. It would be so great.
I would love that. And I think like both Wes and Henry have like just kind of like they're both very, I think, this embody kind of quiet joy.
Yes.
And they would just love to be hanging out with their women and other people in a place that is fun.
They would have so much fun. And
So they're not
Ada and
married.
Tate would be
I'm
getting lit, I think.
Correct. They would just be raging in the corner,
That
letting
would be
letting
great.
the kids play.
And ogling Henry and Wes.
Yes.
Love that.
That's such a fun question.
Good question. So what would, I don't think we'll have time for everybody's zodiac sign, but maybe a couple of your characters, what would their zodiac sign be? I can see Gus being Capricorn.
Gus is actually an Aquarius, but I could also see him being a Capricorn. Gus is an Aquarius, Teddy is a Leo. Me and Tara are also Leos. Um, Ada is a Taurus, Wes is a Pisces, Emmy is an Aries, and Luke is a Scorpio.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you usually know, Tara? Do you know?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I that's part of when I start characters. I start with an Enneagram. From there, I give them a zodiac sign. My next book I have their rising and moon signs too. I've been really about
Yes.
it this time. But yeah, it helps.
Yeah, definitely to have the full picture of that character before it's while you're writing.
Mhm.
So are you both involved in picking your audiobook narrators? Because they're really amazing.
Yes. For me, for Done and Dusted, I had Stella Hunter and Aaron Chedlock in mind, I think forever. I love Aaron Chedlock so much. I love him so much. And when my audiobook producer asked me if I had anybody in mind, I said, yes, I do. Here they are. Thank you. And then she said, do you have any backups? And I said, no. So, um, those were who I wanted. And then for Wes and Ada, I think I had two narrators each that me and Tara talked about audiobooks for Savor It and Swift and Saddled like extensively, I think, kind of determining who would be best, and ended up with Teddy Hamilton and Vanessa Edwin. And Vanessa Edwin is also doing Savor It.
Yes.
And she is like fantastic.
She's
And I'm an
so
audiobook girly. I
fantastic.
love her. So
She
yeah.
just picks up the like right emotions and rhythm that you meant to say things in and all that. And I didn't have as much say when I was indie, but this time I ended up getting like my dream narrator. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, I can't wait for the Savor audiobook. What do I have to do to get that early?
I know.
We'll talk about that.
If you find out, let me know. Okay.
Okay. I have a couple people getting way ahead of the crowd and asking, what is the fourth book about?
Well, you already met Cam, who is book number 4's heroine in Done and Dusted, and you met her again in Swift and Saddled. And
Love her.
I love her so much. Her hero you meet in Swift and Saddled. So I don't want to spoil it for those of you who haven't read it yet, but I think, right, the tension I think it's palpable between those two. I think it's very, very obvious. I've been waiting for these two. I've, strategically set them up from book 1. There's a reason why like you don't learn specific things about Cam and her significant other at the time. I've been waiting for them. They're like a trope I've been waiting to write. They have lived in my head as clearly as Luke and Emmy from the beginning. And I'm in the middle of their book right now and I love them.
Okay, 2 more questions for you. Do you know if your book's going to be translated into other languages, such as Spanish?
Yes. I have a couple translations on the docket. I don't know them all off the top of my head, but it is going to Spain. It's being translated to Portuguese and Dutch. So there are a couple I think there are like 9 or 10 translations that exist out there right now.
Are your books being translated?
Yeah, I have Italian, Dutch, German. No, not German. Yes, German. Yes, Germany.
German.
Yes, German. And I'm forgetting, but there are a couple.
Which is so
Portuguese.
exciting.
Portuguese.
Portuguese is
Yes.
recent for me. That's why that one's like at
Yeah,
the top
same
of my
here.
head.
Same here.
Yep. Oh yeah, we have a huge Portuguese.
It's a pretty mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah.
And Heather's last question, I wanted to thank Lyla for writing realistic mental health and neurodiversity representation. Will all of the books in the series contain some form of this?
I think so. I think that it will always include some sort of like representation as it comes like from the brain. So some sort of like whether that's mental health or neurodiversity or even like a physical disability like dyslexia, like I think that always exists in my books just because that's the world that we live in. But it's very healing to write about and it can be really special to write about, I think, when done the right way. So I'm very excited. And that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think Tara's comment about how everybody deserves love. You know, it doesn't matter if you're on the spectrum or you're overweight or you're, you know, whatever. Everybody deserves it, and your stories reflect that. And we, you know, obviously us readers really love it. So thank you so much for being here and having that wonderful conversation before I jumped in to ask all of my various questions. I hope everybody.
You like chatting.
Yes. Again, certified yappers.
Yes, certified. Yep. We're gonna get t-shirts made.
Awesome.
And thank you everybody for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. That means a lot.
That's right. Well, enjoy the rest of your tour, and Tarah will be looking forward to your next book as well. And I hope we can have that deeper conversation at some point, because I'm just fascinated by that topic.
Yes, would love it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Me.
Love you, Tara.
Oh. Good night, everybody.
Bye.